Good evening, everyone. So happy to be in Sao Paulo. Lots of traffic. It's rainy, it's cloudy. I haven't seen the sun in 2-3 days. And that's the hardest part. Well, I feel like, those motivational speakers, I hate them. And I feel like one of them right now. So please don't consider me that, because I am not. And I don't have a message. I don't like people who have message and have a cause, because it will take us somewhere to a national cause. And I personally like to keep it simple. I maintained a very simple life over the past few years, but somehow there was no escape for me. They brought me back to the reality of mankind. I am a living example of someone who does not obey. If you obey, then you and I have a problem. I like to rebel. I don't like systems. I don't like religions. I don't like to be under the influence of mind. I don't like others to tell me what to do, what not to do. Since childhood, I fought for my freedom. They beat me up many times. Everybody. At school, at mosque, the parents, the teacher, the principal, kids on the street. So many forces tried to put me down. And I still ask myself why. So maybe it's my disobedience against the conditioning, which is, in my opinion, the first crime. Everybody is talking about the death of the children, and the world is so outraged to see bloodshed. But nobody is paying attention or talking about conditioning, indoctrination of generations. When a bunch of savages take children, instead of giving them love, they give them guns. When they give them a book, the book is corrupted with sick ideologies. Then an entire society is forcing this individual, this pure expression of the divine, an image of God, supposedly, a pure potential with the capacity of creating a universe, is reduced into a utility, into something very small. And those children are supposed to obey the system, to obey the establishment, to obey the police, to behave. The system is the necessary evil. The government is the necessary evil. I'm not against it, because I prefer order, not chaos. But I will never compromise my freedom. This was my attitude towards life from day one. It's still my attitude today. It will continue by my attitude tomorrow. And I don't care if I die in the process. I was born to a Muslim family. very strict Muslim family, a Hamas family. I think many of us now understand what Hamas looks like. We did not have this and that, but I was in the household of a top Hamas leader. So open your imagination how it was like and what was the conditioning process. The mosque, the society, the people don't bring shame on the family. Don't embarrass me among my friends. The parents wanted me to make them very proud. But what was the price that I had to pay? It was my freedom. Hence, I fought against it. And I am still fighting. Because no one can steal my freedom. And look at Gaza. Look at the Arabian societies. Look everywhere. What do you see but slaves and slavery? Everybody is afraid to fight. Because if they fight against the society, if they fight against the current, if they fight against the flow, they get destroyed. So everyone recommend against fighting. Everybody wants you to surrender. Surrender to the God, surrender to the ideology. But what's the result of this form of slavery? It's what we are witnessing today. When individuals stick their head in the sand and they don't have the power to fight for who they are, then it's either they become a terrorist or in a society hijacked by terrorists, by criminals, by savages, by corrupt politicians. And this is my experience. This type of society, the individual must rebel. The individual can stay in a society that is advancing human evolution, that is providing the healthy climate for the individual to grow, to integrate into a higher consciousness. This type of society has ups and downs, positives and negatives, whatever it is. You evaluate. If you want to stay, you understand your freedom. And I have no problem with this type of society, community, groups. But if I to be in a society hijacked by a bunch of corrupt leaders who want to take my freedom and want me to commit suicide for whatever cause they believe in, to that society and to that system, from the leadership to the bottom, I say, go to hell, all of you. This is my journey and this is my story. I rebelled against Hamas many years ago. They tried to destroy me and they are still trying to destroy me. They think they can. And now you see what they are doing. Global chaos. They brought so much hatred into the world, I cannot believe it. It was only a regional problem some 20 years ago. Right now, every society is involved in the problem. Everyone is projecting something onto what's so-called Palestinian cause. While there is no such a thing as Palestine. This is the biggest lie. But people need a cause. They need a God. And if there is no such a thing, they don't exist. What we see in the Middle East, this whole chaos, bloodshed, is not coincidental. We are paying the price for our cowardice because we cannot stand and we cannot stay truthful for one moment that we are swayed by the forces of society. If a majority of the people say Palestine, everybody starts saying Palestine, not knowing what they are saying. You ask them, what is Palestine? And they don't know how to answer. Then everybody swear by the name of God. You tell them, what is God? And nobody knows how to say it. Believers. The majority are believers. And this is what I'm dealing with right now. Not only the stupidity of the Middle East, but the stupidity of mankind. That the majority don't want to take responsibility for themselves, and a majority don't choose to stay in denial, not see things for what they are, bringing more chaos and more human suffering. So how do we deal with this problem? We deal with this problem only through the truth. Lies will not save us. Lies will just keep us in slavery or will take us to total destruction. Best case scenario, a lot more suffering and a lot more confusion. This is the alternative to truth. And of course, speaking in terms of truth is not for everyone, except for those who live truthfully, except for those who are truthful to who they are. Even if the entire world say otherwise, this type of individuals are so firm where they stand, not swayed. Hamas is bad news, and we have to eradicate them. You take it as simple as this, or you will have to experience what type of destruction these savages can bring to the world. The world is divided. We say those who know Hamas' true nature, those who have first-hand experience with Hamas, whether it is in the intelligence communities or, in my case, someone who witnessed the evolution of Hamas organization. On the authority of this experience, of this knowledge, I say Hamas must be eradicated. If we fail to eradicate them, we are going to empower them, and there are going to be many other groups like Hamas everywhere in the world that anti-democracy, anti-dialogue, anti-coexistence, anti-humanity. Because the magic of humanity springs from diversity. And Hamas does not like diversity. Hamas is a narrow-minded people who want everybody to convert to their way of living with a sick sense of righteousness. That in their ignorance, they think they are better than anyone else. That's not acceptable. Everybody is a pure potential of the divine. Everyone is an image of the divine, of the source. And this potential is limitless. Hamas want to reduce this potential into a religious function, turning women into property. We saw them. Didn't you see them drag a teenager girl by the neck into the unknown? Hamas savages. That girl represents our freedom. Kidnapped, kept somewhere under the ground, in a dark place among monsters. And we are still debating whether if Hamas doing a good thing or a bad thing. So this is our denial. Because some people don't want to see things for what they are. And we say that this is a savage group. This is a terrorist group. But what they did on October 7th was not only a terrorist attack. There is a difference between the IRA, when they targeted civilians for political reasons, political hatred. But what Hamas did on October 7th was a genocide. They moved systematically from door to door, killing, annihilating everything in their way. They killed pregnant women, they killed infants, they beheaded babies, they raped, they burnt, they blew up, they destroyed everything in their way. With racism and ethnic cleansing as their motive. If Hamas was a political movement and their goal was to really free what so-called Palestinian people from the occupation, all lies, lie upon lie, layers upon layers of ignorance and deception. Because the State of Israel is a member of the United Nations. It was established by legal migrants under the British mandate, the superpower of that time. They bought the land, they developed the land, they created a powerful country, a powerful nation, that I am myself proud to be friends with, that actually the rest of humanity should be very proud of, because the contribution of such a small nation towards humanity is a magnificent contribution. While on the other hand, a bunch of useless people sitting in darkness, they know the art of blaming the world, living in victimhood, being the victim all the time, and having a great cause with leaderships seeking statehood. And everybody is advancing their pursuit, saying, yes, a two-state solution is the solution. And I simply say to this type of clowns, and that includes prime ministers, just like recently, the Spanish and the Belgian prime ministers, two idiots, intoxicated, like you can tell that they are drunk, when they were representing the way out of the crisis. Those are the leaders that want actually to fix the human problem. They come in the middle of a war where a democracy is fighting savages. Instead of condemning the savages who just committed a genocide against a race, they come with the wrong solutions, the wrong people, at the wrong time, at the wrong place. You know, and we wonder why the conflict is continuing forever. This type of losers, they disgust me anyway. They disgust me. So, the hostages was not on their agendas. It's not priority to release the hostages. It was not a priority to condemn Hamas as a savage group who committed genocide. Eradicating a terrorist group that is causing all this trouble in the Middle East, destabilizing security, global security, not only regional security, hijacking an entire society, using them as human shields, posing as the ruler of that land, gambling with children's blood. To those idiots, they don't think eradicating such a group is priority number one before we even talk about the peace process. Because if there is any force in the Middle East that sabotaged the peace process, that's Hamas. But, you know, they are looking for quick solutions. Just sweeping the dirt under the rug, or taking a pill and going to sleep hoping that the problem will be over tomorrow. But then they realize that they need another pill and another pill. And the problem never goes away. So, this is what I meant by staying truthful. This is what I meant by saying taking responsibility. Dealing with a group like Hamas is not an easy thing. And I wish that we actually left Israel to deal with the problem, instead of giving Israel as a democratic model, given them the necessary support in this ugly war against 21st century savages, what do? We go and we inflict emotional pain on Israel and the Jewish people as they mourn a modern-day Holocaust. So pathetic. And of course, when someone like me step forward and talk about it, there is a crowd out there that question my authority. So yes, let them continue to be in denial. But tomorrow, when chaos takes over, and none of them will be able even to travel anywhere without being afraid to be slaughtered on the hands of a savage or a savage group, they will remember that there was order at some point. But are we going to allow it to get to that point? This whole pro-Palestine crowd, anti-Israel, anti-Semitism, or anti-Semitic, this is what they deserve. They deserve to be imprisoned in a room with the savages so they can see the savages for what they are. If they are looking for justice, and let's say I was in that case, I tell them, how about you go figure it out? Even I tell them, why don't you go to Gaza and live with Hamas in Gaza? Let Hamas be the ruler. Why are you in Manhattan? If you love Hamas that much and you love Palestine that much, go there. Relocate. I'll pay for your ticket. A one-way ticket. Bunch of hypocrites. They don't inspire me. They don't inspire my dog. So, this is what I meant when I said being truthful and not being afraid of the opinion of a majority. I know we are hurt. I know that. And I know this is a tough time for the Jewish people and for the free people, not only the Jewish people. You are not alone in this situation. We are together in this, and our faith is connected. This is an existential war. And we are going to win the war. Hamas will be defeated, and all those who unmasked and showed their true face, projecting hatred in the most critical moment of our modern day, turning and stabbing humanity in the back as it's fighting for itself. They just exposed themselves. And they are not a majority. How many in London? Mostly migrants, mostly from Arabian and Muslim background, coming to Europe to benefit from the fruit of the Western civilization, driven by desire to take what the material world has to offer. But they have a problem. One leg in the West and one leg in the East. They cannot just be truthful and respect the culture and the system that took them in. So, you come to Europe, you come to the West, and your heart, your mind still back in the East. Why don't you just relocate? Go back to where you came from. Why all this trouble? I would do that, but my loyalty is to the country that actually welcomed me. When I migrated to the United States of America, I made an oath to be loyal to the American Constitution, which I like. I cannot have my loyalty to Hamas or to Islam or to the Middle East simultaneously. No, my first loyalty to the country that took me in, and that's America. End of the story. So for all those, and if I have to choose between America and humanity at some point, which in my opinion will not happen, then I will choose humanity. Because I don't think that the American Constitution or the Western civilization contradicts with the natural human evolution, because it's all based on dialogue and understands the power of diversity. It's not only green. It's all colors. So this is a good fight. And a majority of people in the free world know what I am talking about. What we see on the streets is a minority of clowns that are projecting their hatred, and it's mostly, by the way, self-hatred. And this cloud is going to move, and the sun will rise again. So stay faithful, stay truthful, do not be afraid. They thrive in chaos. We know that. This is why they're coming, and they're coming aggressive. But we tell them, hey, we're not afraid of aggression. If you think that you can speak loud, we speak louder. And if dialogue does not work, then we have other means. We prefer not to use force as a first option. But if we are left with no other option but the use of force in order to end a war they have started, then we will use force. We are not afraid of that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for support. Thank you for being light in these dark times. As I said, we are one in this. And I want you to understand that the embodiment of evil, and I came many times face to face with very evil forces. And what I know for sure, that evil cannot win, and the truth shall prevail. Thank you very much. Stay strong. I love you. God bless you. God bless Brazil. God bless America. God bless humanity.
Thank you. Inspired. You're inspired. Thank you. You are inspired.
Are we going to do that?
So your mic is a little bit lower of battery. You want to change that, or you want to have this?
Sure, I'll have that.
If it fails, you can take it.
Sure.
Wait. Wow, that was expiring.
Was it?
It was. They clap like 20 times.
Okay.
And Brazilians don't clap a lot. Different from Americans. People are very interested about the background because many people didn't really knew you. Many young people here, they were very young when you published your book.
Are you saying that I'm very old?
They are very young. There's the Z generation.
Right.
Right? So if you gave 2-3 minutes about the place you were born, the fact that you were part of the youth, Hamas movement, and what happened when you jailed and then we are recruited, just a little bit, not too long because we have more important stuff to talk about.
Right. Well, you know, as I said, that entire conditioning process that I took you through and indoctrination, it's all referring to the being an Arab, being a Muslim, being a son of a Hamas leader, youth movement, mosque, at some point jail, first intifada, I mean, name it. Many forces in that society that play the role, forcing me in one direction of life, and I choose to go completely in a different direction. My father, didn't I mention this? He's one of the founders of Hamas movements, co-founders. He's the top leader in the West Bank. I myself witnessed the birth of Hamas movement. I knew a lot about them, about their leadership, about their operation, their structure. I spent lots of time in prison with Hamas, about 27 months.
Israeli prison.
In Israeli prison, but thousands of Hamas members were in that prison. So in the past, I said, if you want to get to know someone, spend 27 months with them in prison. This is how you get to know someone. It's very easy to say, okay, Hamas is a national group or a resistance movement, but when you spend 27 months with them in the prison, it's going to be a different reality. This is, in general, my background, and I make very different choices than what I was meant to be or to do.
And then the Israeli Shin Bet recruited you from prison.
Yes, at that point, when we got to the recruitment with the Shin Bet, the gap between me and my father's project, my society, was already very, very wide. I had personal problem with Hamas, but I also had fundamental problem with them. That I did not like the way they were thinking. I did not like the way thought the rest of humanity going to hell, and the only people going to heaven, Hamas people.
Yeah.
This is the death cult. And of course, there are other cults in the world think of the same way, but Hamas is one of the most violent movements out there. And they think they have the authority to be the sword of God on earth, to dominate earth, create an Islamic global state. We're talking about Nazis and Nazism. This is Hamas mentality. So I knew that Hamas was heading towards a dead end eventually. I didn't know how long it would take. But I think I have lived to witness this end, because it's coming very close, where Hamas, Arabs, Muslims, what so-called Palestinians are going to realize that the use of violence is a dead end they are going nowhere. This is not how it works. It's not about violence. Life is not about violence. It's about tolerance. And the use of force is justifiable, but not in the hands of savages like Hamas. The use of force is justified in the hands of a righteous judge, a righteous, selfless warrior that is not seeking territory and is not seeking to dominate. So, as you see, there's a fundamental problem between me and them. And this is what was in common between me and the Israeli Shin Bet, the Israeli intelligence. And we fought together against Hamas structure. I'm still fighting against them.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe the fact that Israel is a democracy and the use of power is controlled by many rules and regulations, as all democracies need to comply, and comply to the world and comply to the United Nations and the rule of law? I have a theory that maybe you can think with me. If there is a group in the other side that they don't care about anything, they don't care about rules and regulations, and they have the capacity of being cruel 100% of the time. But if you are having the other side a country that has no capacity of use power, even sometimes to be cruel in order to eradicate a 100% cruel group, how will we win the war?
It is not an easy thing for a democracy to fight against terrorism in principle. But in Hamas case, it's not only a terrorist group, as I said earlier. We're talking about savages. We're talking about a group that taking human shields, that are causing the death of many civilians on every side. So Israel is fighting with a broken arm somehow. Because when they took hostages, when they're using human shields, it's not easy for democracy and a modern army to deal with this type of asymmetric war. Hence, requires unity of other democratic models on the grounds of what's the alternative to dialogue and democracy. Because democracy, dialogue, tolerance, these are the qualities of the democratic model, let's say. This is the vision of the Greek philosophers. It represents order. It's not perfect, but there is order to a certain degree. Savages, Hamas, terrorists, intolerant groups, they represent chaos. And in order to bring things back to equilibrium, to balance, we will have to eradicate those who are going against evolution. It's not only going against, let's say, Israel as a political regime. It's going against human evolution in general. Because if we allow everybody to just do whatever they want, then it would be a total destruction of mankind. So what we need unity. We need to identify the enemy, then eradicate that enemy as one force. But up to this point, what I say, there is no unity, there is division. Everybody has opinion about something they don't understand. Many people projecting their hatred, and a majority of people, even though they don't like, but they stay in silence. So we're talking about division, not unity. But thank God for the United States of America that's staying with Israel in this fight. And I am positive that we are going to win against evil forces.
So yeah, so we start of the end, your opinion. We had today the second release of hostages after a delay. we're going to have another 2 releases, and then maybe they're going to start fighting again. Maybe they're going to delay the fighting by releasing more. What is the solution, in your opinion, to the current local technical situation? What is the solution, in your opinion? What is going to happen, in your opinion?
It's a very complicated situation, hostage situation, where there are infants taken by savages. And in order to bring them, we'll have to deal with human shield situation as well. People who don't, or say savages who don't value human life. So they have nothing to lose. They're suicidal. They want many people to die so they can reach their ultimate goal. So I don't know what would be the best strategy but to confront and whatever it takes to remove them from power. Negotiating with them is giving them legitimacy, and that's the problem. Because immediately when Israel, from a democratic point of view, and that's the difference between Israel and Hamas, that saving one human life equals saving humanity. So Israel was willing to agree for a ceasefire so they can bring those innocent people back home, because the government is accountable towards its citizens. And Hamas thought that this was weakness.
Yeah, of course.
Instead of seeing this as strength, that Israel is trying to save human life, bring those infants, those babies, those elders, innocent civilians back to their families, they thought that Israel was weak. And this is how Hamas leadership is blackmailing everybody. And yesterday, the top Hamas leader declared actually victory. Say, Israel was brought down on its knees to our conditions, obeying our demand. This was his understanding of this. So we are dealing with a very brutal enemy that does not have a seed of humanity left in them.
You said yesterday when you were talking about that the ceasefire for 4 days is good, even though that they cannot fly over Gaza. There are other kind of intelligences. It's good for regroup, not just that can benefit them, but it can benefit also Israel.
I'm sure Israel can use this truce for...
It's not a ceasefire, it's truce.
It's a truce.
Yeah.
And many world leaders actually want to see a ceasefire take place before Hamas is eradicated. And this is where I disagree with them. Of course, Israel can use this truce for more than humanitarian reasons, without going through details. But a ceasefire with Hamas would be a mistake. For example, the Spanish Prime Minister, when he went to the Rafah border and proposed a Palestinian state as a solution out of the crisis, I said, a state before eradicating a savage group, meaning who is going to rule this state? A savage group? So we give them state, we give them territory, we give them more power, legitimacy,
weaponry,
arm them, and what's going to be tomorrow? You know, he's confused of what comes first. What comes first is eradicating the savages. Then we can discuss a possible, if it will still be possible, after such an ugly war, a Palestinian entity of a kind. I cannot even say a state after October 7th, because everything changed.
Yeah, and you were talking about the other day about the before state, they have to build a nation. which is
Absolutely.
which is very different from building a state on the political level of institutions, but they have to build a nation.
Look, every Palestinian leader talk about a state. Why? Because with state come power, prestige, money, status. And this is what's attracting them. When they say state, they don't think serving the people. What they have in mind, to be served. And that's the big difference between true leadership, a selfless leadership that is concerned of building a nation that starts from scratch. Instead of indoctrinating children, you build the individual, you give them the freedom, you give them the climate to grow, to integrate. So it takes a lot more effort to build a nation. The leader, actual leaders must die so the nation can rise. But a selfish leader, like the Hamas leaders and the Palestinian Authority leaders, want the nation to die so they can rise.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So, first of all, for all those hypocrites calling Palestinian state, I say, what about Palestinian nation? Show me a Palestinian nation, then I can discuss the possibility of a Palestinian state.
And we are together now seeing many countries in the world, the so-called free world, divided, not united. It is a civilization crisis, in your opinion, and what is the role of the world on that particular issue to have, first of all, to help them to build a nation, not before the state, to build a nation, and to avoid situations like that? What is the rule of the world? What is the responsibility of the free world to achieve that goal?
First of all, do they qualify? For example, when I have countries like North Korea who wants to have an opinion about the solution in the Middle East, well, they don't qualify. And many other countries that don't respect the basic human rights, they don't respect women's rights, they don't advance human evolution, their constitution falls very short fulfilling any human aspiration. They don't qualify to have an opinion about this. They need to go actually work on their own societies. Before the European leaders come to the Middle East and give advice about the crisis, they need to deal with the increasing migration problem that is destroying Europe. This is their priority. But in their hypocrisy, but you know why they come to the Middle East? Because they're afraid of this mob originating in the streets, and they want actually now to please.
To be accepted.
Exactly. They want to please the illegal migrants so they don't rebel and cause chaos on the streets by going and attacking Israel, condemning Israel, instead of doing the correct job, supporting. Well, how do we support democracy in the Middle East if we are going against the only democratic, legitimate model, which is Israel in the Middle East? How can we?
Do you think that, I was thinking the other day that, what was the end game of Hamas on all that? I mean, they are playing deception. They committed the largest terrorist attack against Israel, killing 1,200 people, hijacking hundreds of people, taking hostages. They didn't expect it, that the end game would be a total war, a war of destruction, that the military, they know they cannot win. They're expecting that Hezbollah would join them, that Iran would join them, that the United States would not join Israel. Well, they expected that they could win the war.
They were prepared for a short-term war because they knew the use of human shields and the death of many children, and of course Hamas statistics are not accurate. They are lying about the numbers who actually died in Gaza war. Bring in pictures from Syria and other locations, and many of those videos, photos online are actually fake. They're not even real. To incite against Israel and create global pressure using this human atrocity to force the globe to beg for a ceasefire. And this is Hamas' game for about 4 wars by now, where they launch a deadly attack, they hide behind women and children, then the world come begging for a ceasefire. They get the ceasefire, then they go on again in this vicious cycle, rebuilding their military capacity and starting over the same cycle, the same game. What's different this time, that Israel is determined, and I mean what I say. Israel is determined to annihilate Hamas completely, eradicate them, remove them from power, whether they are in Gaza, in Qatar, in Beirut, Syria, Malaysia, Indonesia, wherever they are going to be eradicated. This is a final stand, not only for Israel, and also for the United States of America, that we have to work towards this goal. As long as Hamas stay in power, there is going to be another Gaza war, and we cannot allow this to happen. If we to finish them, we have to finish them this war, now, today. Not postpone the responsibility and the confrontation until tomorrow. It has to be dealt with now and today.
Which leads me to the next question. Hamas is an ideology, it's a movement. It's not a national movement, as you said before. It's a religious movement. Do you think there is any temptation of Palestinians to join Hamas, the movement, and destroying them and taking them from power is not necessarily means that we can take all the AK-47 that have in Gaza? And so after Hamas is dropped from power, how the Palestinian society can, and I'm going to use an invented word, this Hamasnification of Gaza?
Listen, practically Hamas is removed from power, practically. Because they are at defense now, they are underground, their institutions being destroyed. Many of their tunnels, infrastructure in the north is destroyed. The lifeline is being cut. They are not in office. They are not a ruling party anymore. They are not governing Gaza. And Israel is on the ground. So you can say practically Hamas is removed from power, but the job is not finished yet. We have to complete this by destroying their entire infrastructure and arresting or assassinating, and I prefer assassinating, their top leaders. You see, I'm not a peacemaker. I'm not a peacemaker. If If it's war, then it's war. And I'm not worried about the opinion of the majority.
Not a peacemaker, you're a peace builder.
Listen, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, 400 suicide bombers using airplanes, one-way ticket, and they destroyed Pearl Harbor. This is when the United States realized that they needed a mass destruction weapon in order to stop this type of savage attack. Because when it reached the point that you just go suicidal, the United States said, okay, we develop the nuclear bomb. And it took 4 years for the United States to develop it. The moment it was ready, the United States did not hesitate to drop it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, wiping out an entire or 2 cities off the map. But you know what? World War II stopped. So sometimes, when you cannot reason with terrorists, when you cannot reason with savages, and all dialogue, all peaceful means hit a dead end, someone has to drop a dirty bomb somewhere in order to stop the total destruction and annihilation of mankind. In my opinion, this person who's dropping the bomb in that case is the peacemaker, is not the peace advocate, the coward sitting behind a keyboard telling the world how to make peace. It's the warrior carrying the gun, confronting evil forces and embodiment of evil. Those are the true peacemakers.
Hamas is, and the head of the snake is not in Gaza, it's in Tehran. It's the Iranian regime, which is a very strong country with a delusional idea and a wish to develop this kind of bomb. And the clock is ticking. So what is the end game of Iran? And I mean, how the free world will stop that from happening? Because if they get a bomb, then they're going to give a nuclear umbrella to organizations like Hezbollah and others, not just Hamas, and that's going to bring the world to its knees again, like Japan, like Germany 70 years ago.
Wow, this is a very difficult question. And you know, I've been trying to concentrate, but there is like smell of like deep frying falafel or something all over the place. Do you smell that? And I'm being distracted the entire time. It's like my brain is thinking like of a falafel wrap right now with lots like tahina on it. Iran is a big problem.
From falafel to Iran. They don't eat falafel in Iran, I think, by the way.
It's the same shit. You know, Iran is not acting on its own. It's not acting on its own. Iran is part of the Russian League. Russia, China, North Korea. It's all of them have the intention of changing world order. It's not a secret. They declare it. Actually, as Israel started the war against was defending itself against Hamas attack in Gaza, the beginning of the war, Putin, Xi, other world leaders in China declared their intention of changing the world order. Putin started this process in Europe, in Ukraine. He moved to Africa, Nigeria. Then he moved to the Middle East. And his goal is to change the world order. Iran is part of that. And I think we need to be very careful how we are dealing with this problem. I think first we have to deal with the Gaza front, to concentrate, eradicate Hamas, end this war there. But long-term war, the United States has to finally realize that negotiating with Tehran, negotiating with such a radical terrorist regime that is funding many terrorist groups is also a dead end. All it takes to destroy the Iranian nuclear program, and it's within the American capacity, without civilian casualties and without the United States going invading Iran. The United States has the power. And the United States also can send a very clear message to those who are messing with the global security, like Putin, that no one can mess with the global security and the future of humanity the way that a criminal savage like Putin is doing. Is this too much to say? You know, I found it interesting, and it was not, I don't think it was coincidental that Putin's birthday falls on October 7th. So at least Hamas gave him a gift, or he received the gift somehow by igniting a religious war in the Middle East that got the whole world's attention from Ukraine to the Middle East.
Makes sense.
Punishing Israel. This is not a conspiracy. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but nothing is coincidental. So Iran is not alone. And I think the United States of America really need to show those criminals who's got the power. And this is why from the beginning I said, deploy the American might to the Middle East. Show them power, that we are not going to accept even people protesting in the street. And I said many times, even if a majority agree with Hamas, with terrorists, with Putin, with Iran, with China, even if a majority agree, their opinion don't matter.
Bringing to Brazil. The president of Brazil compared Hamas to Israel. He said that if Hamas is terrorist or did a terrorist attack, what Israel is doing is terrorism. Your message to leaders of countries that commit this kind of mistake?
Are you trying to get me in trouble?
Not at all. I'm going to stay here, you're going to leave.
Well, but I have to go through their checkpoint at the airport.
We just took care about that.
But you know what? Okay, it's not going to be the first time I go into prison.
But you are in a democracy. You can say whatever you want.
Okay, as long as you guarantee...
It's the First Amendment in Brazil.
As long as you guarantee my freedom, that I won't be punished for my political incorrectness.
Please do it.
Listen, I think the president of Brazil is mistaken. And I don't have a problem with with the mob on the street who don't know things, reality on the ground. But when you are a president, you have responsibility. You have intelligence service. You have a government, and with all its institutions, you have advisors. You should be well informed on the problem before you make a statement as an official representing a nation of 200 million. It's a big responsibility. You are not like Joe Schmo in the street. Nobody cares about Joe Schmo being angry, maybe being constipated, and projecting his stressful state on the Palestinian cause. You're the president of a great nation. You cannot compare a savage group that just committed a genocide to a democratic state that is defending itself. And the civilian casualties on the other side is the cause of the savages who are taking humanity as human shields. I mean, no offense. No offense.
We're going to take one question from the audience that is written here. If you could say anything to people that is in the street shouting in favor of Hamas and for free Palestine, would you say to try to show that Israel is not that evil?
Well, I think if they are in denial, they will continue to be in denial. It doesn't matter how much you're going to show them. But I told you, there is a better way. You know, like for example, if you take one of those people who are in denial to just witness and smell a suicide bombing scene and just bring their face into the terror attack right there, let them live it for a moment, then they will be traumatized for the rest of their lives, and they would stay home dependent on drugs. They would never leave their house. Otherwise, you cannot rationalize, because if they are motivated by hatred, they are motivated by hatred. But those who actually have maybe good intention, let's assume that some of this crowd has good intention, and they think that Israel is the occupier and the Palestinian people are the underdog oppressed. And this is what they are acting upon that.
Yeah.
To this I say, this is not the reality. The reality that Palestinians are living a self-inflicted pain that is caused by their leadership, by their inability to stand for truth. And the mistakes of leadership is the root cause for the Palestinian suffering, rather than Israel. Because 90%, 99% of the wars that happened between Arabs and Israel, the Arabs initiated that war. And Israel was most of the time at defense, not at offense. So to this type of crowd, educate yourself about the subject. Study a little bit more before you come to a conclusion and make a judgment and condemn actually the victim in this case.
Yeah, but we are talking about that, about the denial, that people that are in the street or people that we are debating in Brazil, you show them the pictures, you show them the videos, you show them the reality, you show them the maps, and they still continue to be on denial. They reject reality until, and you told me that, until they are the victims, until that Hamas takes them. Then they will believe.
Yes, but it's not only Hamas, until chaos happens. Because if Hamas win in Gaza, what will happen? They will inspire many other radical groups around the world. And in fact, Russia, other superpowers, if they want to sabotage the West, they would actually start groups like this, fund groups like this, and encourage them to turn against democracies, knowing that a small group of savages can force democracies to bend and negotiate and meet the demand of savage groups. It will not, let's say, because for them it's a long shot. They think, oh, Hamas, the Middle East, we can just project our hatred on a different region. But what they don't understand, that it could be a group from Brazil that would get inspired by Hamas. We saw the cartel in Mexico dressed up like Hamas and behaving like Hamas. So it does not have to be the same ideology, an Islamic ideology. It could be a violent ideology that wants to just dominate humanity by the means of the sword, by the means of the gun. So if Hamas win there, some group here will say, oh, how about we sabotage the whole freaking system? Bring the bankers, the establishment, everything upside down. Because again, here in Brazil, in the United States, many groups, individuals, they don't prefer order. They love chaos. Because in order, you have to show responsibility to maintain that state of order.
In chaos, you don't.
But in chaos, you don't care. And people love chaos. Haven't you seen in chaos people looting, stealing, destroying, taking belongings to others? It's their opportunity. But what they don't understand, that just few days of this chaos, they cannot even find food to eat. And they would starve to death. So many people are irresponsible. They just want to project their hatred. And this is my concern. That it's not only about Hamas invading Brazil from there. If we validate a sick ideology like this, then we have encouraged many other groups in Europe, drug cartel, whatever it is, to rise and challenge establishment. And of course, I have my own problem with establishments and systems. I don't think they are perfect, but I always prefer order. It's supposed not to be perfect. I prefer order, not chaos.
Yeah. You mentioned before that you think that the whole leadership of Hamas needs to be assassinated, from Gaza to Qatar to Lebanon to elsewhere where they are.
Right.
And your father is a Hamas leader. That includes your father.
There we go with the hard questions right now. Look, my father made his choices. He's responsible for his own life. And I am responsible for mine. I wanted him to be something else, but he insists on inciting for violence. And in my personal opinion, that's my father. I love him and I honor him, regardless, as a father. And I don't mean to disrespect him when I'm about to make this statement. It's a very hard statement. But if he's inciting and encouraging others to fight and to go die for the cause on his behalf, I think he should be first. If I was him in his shoes, it would be hypocrisy to stay behind and ask everyone to go ahead and die for Allah, die for the nation. It's not just. And when I say Hamas leadership, I include him. And this is the just way. I'm not selective to say, no, because he's my father, keep him in a safe place. No. If this is where he wants to be, part of Hamas leadership, then he needs to take responsibility for the choices that he's making.
Needs a lot of courage to say something like that and to internalize something like that.
It's part of being truthful.
It's part of being truthful.
For me, I don't choose to lead the country. I'm not a leader. I'm not a politician. I'm not a religious leader. I don't have a message. I don't have a purpose. I'm not trying to change anybody. I'm in control only of me. This is my responsibility. It's right here. It's my nerve system. Everything outside does not exist to me. Hence, I don't have this dilemma. I don't have this problem. So whether if it's hard or easy, it is what it is. You take responsibility, you send many people to die. It's a very big responsibility.
At the same time, as you said, it's your father and you respect him. So you are not in contact with your family or with your father for 12 years, 13 years?
12 years, yes.
If you would have, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what Israel is going to do about all the Hamas leaders. Maybe he will be a target, maybe not. But as you don't speak with him, but if you could have a last opportunity to talk to him, to say something, what do you say to your father now?
As my father, my memory of him as a child, I know how much pain I caused him. And probably even the mountains cannot bear the shame and dishonor, the pain that I brought over his shoulders. And to that I say, I am sorry, Dad. I'm sorry for causing you all this pain.
Mosab, you are an inspired human being, and even though you have a responsibility just to your own nerve system, the world, the entire world, listen what you have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.